Hello everybody and welcome to Tiger Tales The Lost Stories, a place you'll find stories and fanfictions written and read to you by your host, me, Ty Tiger. All the tales on here are in the first person perspective, and I do try to spin on the term fanfictions and come up with some wacky stories on this channel. Today we dive into the Tiger Tales Marvel and DC fanfiction universe, or the TTMDFU for short. This is an ongoing universe which you can listen to most of it on the Tiger Tales channel. I have all sorts of storylines like Mutants for Hire, War Against Gotham, and Red Lantern Crimson Rage. It's a combination of Marvel and DC where they get fused into one universe, and that event is known as Union Day. Well, this takes place after a year later. Most of the stories do. We already have one of the storylines that are part of the universe. I don't call it exactly canon because it's a prequel, but that is before Deb became a doctor. But today we dive in with something new, and this story actually takes place in said universe. Welcome to the son of Darkseid. This story revolves around a person who was made specifically to be the child of Darkseid. But when I say child, I don't mean as Darkseid suddenly wanted to become a dad. No, he wanted a loyal subject who could help him invade Earth whilst he recovers from an injury he got on Union Day. So let's dive in with the son of Darkseid. Chapter 1. Saving the Worshippers. My name is Dante Securus, and I am the son of Darkseid. I was not conceived by any means, I was created. Darkseid was injured during the events of Union Day, and he needed eyes and ears on Earth. As now, Earth had new threats, new challenges, some known and some new to us. He needed time to heal, so my so-called father stayed on Apokolips, and I had the ability to use the boom tubes to travel between Apokolips and Earth at will. I was also grafted with Darkseid's DNA. In different ways, my bones are fused with his bone marrow, making me more durable and resilient to damage. My brain was downloaded with the knowledge, so I could talk to the parademons and they'd listen to me. My eyes were grafted with the magical means etched into my DNA of my father, so I could use his Omega beams, which my father was so famously known for. I was altered to be stronger and to be a warrior, and I was also being able to switch from my Earth form to my Apocalypse form. They were very similar, but my Apocalypse form was grey and stone-like, just like Apocalypse. I entered the main room in my father's base, where my father was in a medical tube, floating in some red liquid. I walked up to him and stood there staring at the menacing monster reduced down to a medical issue. "Hello, father," I grunted.
"Dante, my son. Good to see you've already prepared for our first mission. Good,"
Darkseid said to me. "I am ready, sir," I said with a slight bow.
"You understand that I plan on ruling Earth, right? You need to start planting the seeds of our return."
Darkseid bellowed. "I understand," I grunted.
"Our minds are connected, so no funny business."
Darkseid grunted back. I nodded, then I walked away.
Do you ever wonder what would happen if
you give a dad a podcast?
Hello, all my beautiful people.
Mom, I'm not going to college like we planned. I'm going to take a couple years off. I just gave all my college money to this professional wrestling promoter, and I'm going to be a big superstar one day.
I'm a human and I'm a chiropractor.
I wasn't about to call you dad, so.
I'm what you call a nerd fan.
In the Monos Chronicles, the new web series that I'm working on.
We inadvertently made that kid cry. We didn't mean to. I mean.
People get really mad at those videos for some reason. Like it triggers certain people. Yeah.
First tryout, made the team, made starting position. I was right guard for a little while.
Hey Jared, that swerve I was going to tell you about, here it is.
It's going to be from a nerdy dad's point of view.
You're starstruck. It's not a big deal, man.
I am being starstruck.
I made a really good career out of being able to bump, sell, and I had a punch me face.
That's why they call it If You Give a Dad a Podcast.
Exactly. Available everywhere podcasts are found.
A boom tube opened and I walked out, entering a car park on Earth. I walked up and saw a warehouse. I walked up to it and noticed a group of people all with guns and 3 men in red robes on their knees. Patterns etched up all the robes, and of course their hands were on the back of their heads.
Those 3 idiots on their knees are my human disciples. Get rid of their captures quickly. I need them at the gate.
Darkseid told me in my mind. I walked into the warehouse and the gang spotted me quickly. "Hey, get lost, kid," one guy barked. I stood there with a smile on my face. Then one of the gangsters walked up to me, waving a pipe that had nails hammered in. "Oi, we said bugger off," one man grunted. Again, I ignored him. He then swung his pipe and it dented as it attacked my face. I stood there and slowly turned my gaze towards him. His eyes were wide in shock as he stared at the bent pipe. Then, with a quick, swift swing, I hit the man with the back of my hand, and the man went flying across the room and crashed into some wooden boxes. The 2 other men aimed their submachine guns and unleashed a flurry of bullets, all of them bouncing off me, dropping to the floor. I walked up to the first gunman, grabbed him by the throat and lifted him up into the air. His feet now off the ground. I then crushed his windpipe and the man's body went limp. I dropped the dead man. I then turned my attention to the second one, who was struggling to reload his gun. I approached him, I snatched the gun out of his hand and crushed it. Then, with swift movements, I tripped the man with my foot. I then raised my foot up and slammed it down, crushing the man's ribcage underneath my boot. I looked up to see the remaining 4 men looking at me horrified. They all ran away, trying to head for the entrance of the warehouse. My eyes started to glow, and I released the Omega beams. They flew around the warehouse, zigzagging across the room. Then they struck the first man, going right through his chest, the second man penetrating his stomach. Then it ripped through the third man's brain and the 4th man's throat. All 4 men dropped dead as my eyes dimmed down. I turned to the 3 worshippers. They all gazed at me in shock. "Why save us?" the worshipper barked. "You might want to talk to me with a bit more respect," I barked. Then I pulled my collar down slightly, revealing the Omega symbol that had been burnt into my chest. "The son of our lord," he said in a gasp. "Yes, now head to the gateway. I'll be arriving there soon. Soon we start our preparations," I demanded. The 3 of them stood and bowed at me. "We shall do this at once, my lord." The leader nodded. Then the 3 worshippers scurried away, leaving me alone once more.
Well done, son. You did well. Now find me the man known as Hank Pym.
Darkseid ordered in my head. I summoned a boom tube, and I walked through it. I walked out of the boom tube and entered a street. There I saw the house of the famous Hank Pym. The scientist, once known as Ant-Man or Giant Man, had been blacklisted as a hero, hated by so much due to his intelligent mind and the lack of drive to bring back the other heroes we lost on Union Day. I walked up to his house and suddenly an automatic turret sprung from the floor underneath a slab of concrete and it fired at me. The laser bounced off me. I retaliated it with an Omega beam. The turret exploded. Then I advanced and walked into the house. There I found the man himself, sat there, with half a glass of whiskey in his hand. I walked into the dimly lit room and walked up to the genius. "Who are you?" Hank asked, with a fed-up tone in his voice. "I'm in need of you," I told him. "Why?" "No one needs me," Hank Pym said, acting sorry for himself. "I'm afraid you don't have a choice," I replied. Then Hank stood up, turned around and opened a drawer. He spun around quickly, pulling a laser blaster at me. I quickly fired my Omega beams, which hit the blaster. He dropped it as it started to smoke, due to the heat. Then he looked at me with a deep breath and sighed. He walked back to the table, picked up his glass, downed his whiskey, then slammed the glass down. "What are we waiting for?" Hank said. I placed my hand on his shoulder and opened a boom tube. Then I pulled him into it as we both entered Apocalypse. The boom tube closed behind us as I pushed Hank forward, and we walked closer up to my father, who was still in the medical chamber. "I present Hank Pym," I grunted.
"Well done, boy,"
Darkseid said to me. Then he turned to Hank Pym.
"Hello, Dr. Pym. I hope my son didn't make you uncomfortable."
Darkseid told him. "No, I guess not," Hank sighed.
"I am in need of your services, Dr. Pym. I believe you are the inventor of PIM particles, allowing you to become the Ant-Man.
Darkseid stated. That is correct. Hank Pym nodded.
For my plan to succeed, I need your PIM particles.
Darkseid told Hank. Then 2 parademons came in and grabbed Hank by the arms and escorted him away. Then Darkseid turned to me.
Well done, son. Now you must find a sorceress powerful enough to handle the gateway opening.
Darkseid demanded. I nodded. Then I opened a boom tube and walked through it. I walked out and I was on Earth, ready to look for the sorceress my father was on about. And there we have it, guys. A quick introduction to another story and another installment to the Tiger Tales, Marvel and DC fanfiction universe. This is an ongoing universe with multiple storylines, and a lot of them take place on Tiger Tales, so make sure you go check that out. Now, Darkseid was played by a good friend of mine, Jared, who's the host to the podcast named If You Give a Dad a Podcast, and I will be on as a guest very, very soon, so you might want to go check that out. That being said, make sure that, of course, you check out Tiger Tales, where you'll find the rest of the stories to this universe, but also many other things like Power Rangers, Kamen Rider, Digimon, and Pokemon storylines, just to name a few. And check out Tiger Tales Game Over, a brand new channel where I'm uploading storylines that revolve around video games, and it's been a lot of fun writing them, so make sure you go check out that too. Thank you all for listening, subscribe to this channel, and I shall see you guys really soon.
Well done, my son. Now you must find the sorceress. Try that again. Ooh, sorry.